Bibi, to his credit, and it's not even to his credit, he was caught. There's a photo of him recently, about a week ago, sitting with Rabbi Jacobson's book, Towards a Meaningful Life.
Yeah.
And I feel like Bibi is like just trying to remember something of what the Rebbe told him. You know, the whole thing about being in a room full of lies in the UN, the whole thing about being in the Knesset and fighting against 119 other snakes.
Maybe a little piece of his soul is returning to him.
Yeah, maybe the fact that he supposedly, allegedly told him that you're going to hand the keys to Mashiach. You know, the Rebbe told Bibi you're going to hand the keys to Mashiach. All these things that the Rebbe like just told him, like, this is how you're supposed to conduct yourself as the Prime Minister of Israel. And Bibi's like, he's really, he's not trying. Again, we're very upset at him for all the COVID stuff and all the horrible stuff and like Pfizer and all this stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's a mixed bag, man.
Can I explain it a little bit? Can I explain this a little bit better?
Yeah.
Because this might be very confusing for the folks at home.
Yeah.
So folks, basically, generally the way we feel, I feel like I can speak on Greg's opinion just because I've heard it so often. I feel like you'll correct me if I'm mistaken, okay?
Yeah.
But we generally have a feeling that the Israeli government, certainly during COVID, right, has proven itself to be an enemy of the Jewish people in Israel and by extension else, everywhere in the world, okay? Because they seemingly on purpose tried to poison their population. And many people died as a result and are continuing to die as a result, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so and miscarriages are occurring at extremely high rates and were occurring at extremely high rates. I know Greg said he just recently saw some data saying miscarriages have slowed down and birth rates have gone up.
Well, I saw data that birth rates have gone up. I don't know. I mean,
so it just basically, from my own personal, let's remember, folks, that you're watching two Jews who have loved ones, friends, and relatives in Israel. Okay, so it's a very small country. The Jewish people are a small group of people in general when it comes to nations, right? Okay, a couple million of us, and everybody has a bunch of relatives in Israel, right? Even if you don't live in Israel, okay? So, we're talking to people in Israel all day, okay? And I'm hearing, from my mother's side of the family, my father's side of the family, extended friends, people that they knew from Russia that moved to Israel, and there's just a staggering amount of miscarriages that are happening. Okay, so we blame we blame not just Bibi, but primarily Bibi, because he was in charge at the time and he was so excited about this stupid vaccine, right? And when we know personally, we know for a fact that he knew about my brother's protocol, which means the vaccine wasn't necessary. Okay, and he talked about being, excited that Israel was the testing ground for the Pfizer vaccine and Borla, that animal, and all this kind of stuff. So it all came to a head where we're like, that's it. The leadership that we always suspected, that we knew, were something called the Erev Rav. We're not going to get into what that means. We talked about it endlessly, but it's an enemy entity within the Jewish people, okay, that works to destroy the Jews. It's a small group of people. It works to destroy the Jews. It's something that has been with us since Moses in Mount Sinai. In the Bible, they're called the mixed multitude, okay? They're the ones started all the trouble, okay? So basically, this is our general feeling about the Israeli political class, not the Jews of Israel, but the Israeli political class. And we felt that they are the lapdogs and the liaisons to the global Western deep state in Washington and in Western Europe, okay? Or another way of putting it, they are specifically with the Israeli political class, that they are the liaisons and they work for the American military-industrial complex, okay? Which are essentially not even American. The military-industrial complex of America is not American. They're fucking Nazis, okay? They're dominated by the Nazi assholes that were brought over during Project Paperclip. That's what they are, okay? So So the people who call themselves the politicians in Israel are really just working for those guys. They're, you know, they're sub-managers, they're capos is what they are. Okay, that's our general feeling about Israeli politicians and how much they betray the Jews of Israel. Okay, now we always knew that Netanyahu was one of them. Okay, but we were hoping because he had qualities where it seemed that he could potentially overcome that group and perhaps join the Jews, join the Jewish people proper. Okay, because one of our greatest spiritual leaders, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, okay, had several meetings with him and had an impact upon him in a positive way. Nobody who's ever, folks, anybody who's ever met the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Jew or Gentile, has never been the same again in their life. Okay, there's plenty of video testimony to that. Okay, there's like endless video testimony. There's an entire gem. There's this YouTube channel dedicated to people's retelling their experiences with meeting with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, so, but we know that there was not a special relationship, but we know that the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Netanyahu had several meetings, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe knew exactly who he was. He knew he was an Erev Rav. He knew exactly who this person was, but there was he saw some special potential in him to perhaps transcend the evil faction that he's a part of and possibly repent, which we call in Hebrew, do teshuvah, and to actually help the Jewish people, okay? To actually do things that benefit the Jews of Israel and by extension worldwide and by extension the rest of the world, okay? So he saw something special in him in that regard, that there was a possibility, there was a potential with Netanyahu, okay? So we call him the best of that shit, you know, political class of Israel, okay? So we're always hoping that he wouldn't disappoint us, and he destroyed our hopes during COVID. But if he were to just simply eradicate Hamas, okay, which by the way is a big deal. The army of Israel, the military of Israel, could easily do it. When I say easily, that means they could do it quickly and successfully, not easily, obviously. Okay, it's very hard to wage war.
They could do it. They could do it like, they could do it if they were not to pause, they would have finished it relatively quickly compared to what we've seen. You know, it's been 8 months already. They would have finished it in 8 weeks or maybe even a month.
Their hands are tied because Israel's government takes its marching orders from Washington,
from the State Department.
From the State Department. Okay, it's first of all, not only is it painful, not only is it getting Jews killed in Israel, but it's humiliating. It's difficult to explain how humiliating it is that Israel does not have a real government. Okay? Yeah. So again, if he were to just cut ties and long enough to just finish the job in Gaza, which by the way, Hamas is a over 40,000 strong army. Everybody is armed to the teeth. They have complete home court advantage. They're supported by all civilians. All civilians are aiding them and hiding them and protecting them and covering them. And they're being fed infinite resources by the UN, by America, and by Egypt. Okay? Non-stop guns and ammo and rockets are being sent to the tunnels in Egypt. Okay? That's how they keep. How do they keep fighting? How do they keep fighting? They don't have this, they don't have that, but they have enough rockets and ammunition to continue to fight. How could, with all the genocide and the devastation of Gaza, how is it that they're still? Because they built an underground city. They took all the billions of dollars that they were given in aid, okay, to turn Gaza into a prosperous whatever, okay, for people to be happy and live. And they built an underground hell. They built Dante's Inferno underneath Gaza, an entire city, a vast city of tunnels, sophisticated tunnels, not freaking just dirt tunnels, concrete tunnels, which they forced their own children to build. Okay. And this, and you know, because of, and which the Hadid, people like the Hadid sisters, right, are constantly sending them money to do this. Okay. So it's not an easy thing. It's one of the hardest wars ever fought, actually. Okay. If you want to know what it was like, if you want, you know, ask the tunnel rats, the American tunnel rats of the Vietnam War, what that kind of warfare was like. Okay. It was hell on earth. You can go on YouTube and you can do a search for tunnel rats. Those are the American soldiers that had to clean out tunnels that the Viet Cong, that the VC, you know, was building with horrible booby traps and things, you know, nightmares beyond anything. Like they can't, like the soldiers would come back and they wouldn't be able to tell people what actually went on. Okay, so that's what it's like. It's not easy to do that, but the Israelis, they can do it, or they could have done it swiftly and much less casualties to themselves. Okay, so if Netanyahu can just at least finish Gaza, okay, then he could redeem himself to some extent. And can you explain, Greg, please, about this handing the keys off to Mashiach? Where did this come from? Where did this idea? There's a rumor. Please explain. You're muted. Greg, you're muted.
There's been a rumor going around. It's a kind of quasi-substantiated rumor. There's an article that somebody wrote here. Handing keys to, so there's an article.
True stuff, folks.
So this is an article in you know, Israel 365 by Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz in 2018, and he actually mentioned this whole, like, where did this come from thing, because it's been like a, you know, kind of like a word of mouth kind of thing for a while, and he writes about it. So here it goes. This is 2018. A rift in the prime minister Benjamin Netanyahu-led coalition may lead to new elections, leading some to worry, while others note this development may have been predicted many times over as a precursor to better, much more messianic times. Okay, he's talking about all this Avigdor Lieberman thing and blah, 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 and Bennett. Here. Netanyahu's most solid connection to the Messiah was through Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Chabad leader who passed away in 1994. The two first met in 1984 when Netanyahu was Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. Before Netanyahu returned to Israel in 1988 to join Likud, the Rebbe gave him advice which proved to be at least partly prophetic. You will fight with 119 people, presaging the coalition troubles that are plaguing the prime minister to this day. Rabbi David Nachshon, a close friend of Prime Minister Netanyahu, who witnessed a dialogue, related that the Rebbe was confident that some great good will come out of Netanyahu's political trials. It really pains me as a friend, as a brother, as a close friend, to see how people constantly spill Netanyahu's blood. Rabbi Schneerson confided to Nachshon. But I have a surprise for you. He's going to come out of it, and he'll stand tall on God's side. He has a promise from the Rebbe, and he's going to make it through this. We've seen it happen up to now, and that's how it's going to be now as well. He will make it through this. He will continue. And I hope he'll be able to hand his keys over to Mashiach, and we'll have the complete and true redemption. Lubavitcher Rebbe was not the only prominent tzaddik with high expectations for Netanyahu. Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri, one of the most influential Sephardic spiritual leaders for the century, who passed away in 2006 at the age of 106, met with Netanyahu in 1997 during his first term as prime minister. Rabbi Kaduri whispered a long message into the politician's ear. Rabbi Shmuel Shmueli, a follower of Rabbi Kaduri, revealed that Kaduri always maintained that Netanyahu would serve a very long time, and after his term in office, the Messiah would arrive. Before his death, Kaduri had said that he expected the Jewish Messiah to arrive soon, and that he had met him a year earlier. In May, Breaking Israel News reported the opinion of Rabbi Levi Sudri, noted the many parallels between the current prime minister and Yonatan, the son of biblical King Saul, Shaul. Sudri suggested that Netanyahu is serving the function of Mashiach ben Yosef, the first half of the two-stage messianic process. Mashiach ben Yosef is a practical, mundane process that includes the gathering of the exiles and building up the land of Israel. The second stage, Mashiach ben David, is a miraculous process which includes the reestablishment of the Davidic dynasty and completion of the Third Temple. Rabbi Sudri explained that as the reincarnation of Yonatan, the manifestation of Mashiach ben Yosef, Netanyahu is paving the way for more transcendent Mashiach ben David, who will immediately follow. It is very clear that we see in Prime Minister Netanyahu that he's fulfilling his destiny as Mashiach ben Yosef. It's all crazy. That is to say, reincarnation of Yonatan. Rabbi Sudri told Breaking Israel News. The name Netanyahu is composed of the same letters as the name Yonatan. This sentiment was repeated by Rabbi Moshe Bentov, known for his ability to perceive the past and present of people by gazing at the mezuzah on their door. After attaching a mezuzah in the Prime Minister's office, Rabbi Bentov made a remarkable statement to the Prime Minister. It is very important that your love of Israel continue until the Mashiach comes, because you are going to stay in office and are going to meet him. Rabbi Bentov said to Netanyahu, you are the one who will give him the keys to this office. Perhaps the most powerful message connecting current political events to the Messiah came from the most obscure source. Almost exactly 1 year ago, a Haredi 31-year-old Israeli woman named Talia Caroline Eliyahu was going through a spiritual crisis after giving birth. She sensed the dark presence in her home. One night, she awoke to change her baby's diaper. When she returned to sleep, she dreamt of a large chariot with many people in it, including a member of her family. She followed the chariot into a large room where many people were being beaten. In that room, she encountered her deceased grandmother, who says, "You are partly here and partly there." She also saw many holy rabbis she recognized, some alive and some already deceased. One of the rabbis she recognized was Rabbi Dov Cook, a well-known mystic from Tiberias. He's still alive, by the way, Kabbalist. When the government of Netanyahu crumbles, it is time to get ready for the Mashiach, Rabbi Cook told her in the dream. Talia's vision is taken seriously in her community of Haredi Jews, even more so now the current events indicate they may have relevance. That's it. So
basically,
fascinating.
So it's fascinating, but it's the attitude about this is that all this may or may not be just hearsay or speculation or this and that.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a sense. Okay, this is a reflection. Everything right, of a sense that people have about the times that we live in, and the fact that we're told by the majority of our spiritual leaders that we're in the Messianic era, right? And so we see that Netanyahu has been in leadership position for a long time in that process, right? So, and we know that the Lubavitcher Rebbe had not an affinity, but he had a certain sense about him that he was going to do something very, very important. Okay. And so the whole idea of him handing the keys of leadership of the Jews over to the actual Messiah is something that we've all kind of been hoping for, secretly or maybe not so secretly. And we wanted to see that manifest. Obviously horribly disappointed during COVID, but maybe still there's a potential if you just get this right.
Frank, can I show you? There's an article in the Chabad newspaper COL Live from August 2020.
Please.
It shows a video of a 26-year-old yeshiva student. He's kind of he's blind. Yonatan Cohen in Israel, and I'll show you the video. But he says as Netanyahu was walking through the Knesset, he encountered Yonatan Cohen, a young, frum man who was born blind. Netanyahu stopped to chat with him. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Cohen said, and asked to make 3 requests of Israel's longest-serving head of state. He asked that assistance and supplies be given to students of schools that are state-recognized, that shuls not be closed during another lockdown, and that blind people able to serve in the police. Netanyahu asked, "How old are you?" 26, Cohen replied. "Have you learned something? I see that you're sharp-minded and clear-spoken." Cohen replied, "I learn Torah every day, and Baruch Hashem, we completed today Tractate Shabbat, the Talmud." Cohen added, "In the merit of you," this is Cohen saying to Netanyahu, "in the merit of you safeguarding the Shabbos, you will be able to win everyone and merit to hand over the keys to Mashiach, as the Lubavitcher Rebbe told you." This is the non-Lubavitch kid telling him this. Netanyahu, who faces daily challenges to his emergency government, coalition, and number 120-member Knesset, this is in 2020, replied, "He also told me that I will be fighting with 119 people. I thought he was exaggerating." So is the video of them talking here in a second. This I never seen. I've never seen this. He's a blonde. You know how they say like prophecy comes from like these kind of people. You know. Cripples, basically.
Well, people can't understand it. There's no subtitles. Even I can't.
Listen, the point is, when people like this talk to you, you should do well to listen.
Yeah.
And Bibi did well to listen. This is during COVID, mind you.
Yeah.
And I hope he internalized what this kid said to him.
I hope so too. You know, there's recently, there's a picture of him wearing the phylacteries. I'm reading that book.
Yeah.
The teaching. So, all these things. Who knows? We're hoping that something, that he can redeem himself to some extent. And